Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Aw, way to speak of the devil. Okay, so, you see, now that I know that you're Canadian, Ontario no less, so it's a photograph where the photographer is probably about 30 feet away from you, we're using a sort of slightly telephoto lens. It's in the fall. It's definitely Canadian autumn. You guys aren't wearing, it must have been a warm day because you aren't wearing like super warm clothes, but there's a nice man with a haircut that is very similar to mine, uh, kissing the top, or it looks like kissing the top of the head of, I'm assuming that's you. Just very beautiful. So the tone of the image is all browns and autumn and grays and your
I
arm.
remember that photo now.
Of course, you were there. And it's by, I guess, by a lake because in the background you can just see a flat area. So maybe it's a lake or it could be a field. It could be a farmer's field. Probably October, I guess. September. Yeah, family. Go for it.
Yes. So that is my husband and me.
Aw.
We got family photos done not last year, the year before last. So it's almost 2 years ago.
Before COVID.
In the middle of, I think during one of the random openings of COVID.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yes, because my grandson was born during that time because we had him in some of the photos.
Ah, nice.
And so it was a really nice day. It was November, the very beginning of November, which is shocking that it was so nice that day.
Mm-hmm.
There was a cool breeze, but it was really nice. We got lucky because I was worried it was gonna snow, and I was like, I don't want to do snow.
I love Canada. I love it.
Yeah. And we went to, what's it called, Queenston Heights, which I had actually never been there, even though it's in my, like, it's where I live. I've never actually been to it. People tell me it's so nice, and it was. And yeah, we took some family photos, and the photographer was like, do this, do that. And so she's like, well, kiss the top of her head. And of course we're laughing because we are not a lovey-dovey couple. I'm just like, yeah, I love you, but you stay over there on that side of the couch and I'll stay on this side of the couch. Yeah.
Okay, so somebody listening to this from Hong Kong, for example, is not used to seeing the ground like that, where it's like matted, tamped, short grass and covered with these orange, brown, dead leaves. And behind it looks like a maple tree, which no frame of reference. There's like the grays and the orange, the beautiful brown of it all. And it's like the image itself is quite beautiful because it's like you're in a space where there's a lot of room around you and it feels very open. And it's like, it's only you two, like in the photographs, you can see in the background evidence of like human construction. Like there's a path and there's like a deck and all this stuff, but it's an intimate moment. And I don't know, because you're a couple, he probably whispered something, I don't know, a little kind of funny because your laughter is obviously genuine.
Yeah, I think he said something about how, like, this is so weird. We don't like being this close.
Okay, well,
he probably said something like that.
Right. So the photo looks great. It's a great photo. But why is family? Why is this photo one of the windows we're looking through?
Because it's cute. No, because it's a big part of my life. Like, I spend a lot of time with my family. I tend to like my family. I say tend to because sometimes they bug me.
Right.
As they always do. But I wouldn't be where I am today without my family, especially my husband. He has been with me through thick and thin. Like I said, it's been 15 years together with him, 10 years married this year. And so we've been together our entire adult lives.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I would not still be here. I wouldn't have written all the books I've written. I wouldn't be doing all the things that I'm doing without his support.
Hmm.
Um, and see, he won't get a big head because he never listens to the stuff I do.
So we can say whatever we want.
That's right. And that's how you know it's genuine too.
Sure.
But that's how we are. We're silly, and I love that about us. It's just like we tease each other, but it's not anything ever bad.
Hmm.
And we have this chemistry that just works, and we always joke saying, you could never have been with anybody else because
Right.
nobody else would put up with your crap.
Sure. Sure. Well, luckily you found somebody who would put up with your crap. That's nice. So,
Yeah.
so if we pull back, how does somebody either who gets strength from family process this in terms of writing or in terms of mental health, of the themes of what we've been talking about, or somebody who doesn't have family, how do they process what you're saying?
Ooh, that's a very thought-provoking question.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Abandon
I
ship.
know. Oh no. I don't think I like you anymore. So I think it's easier to process it if you have your family, if your family is supportive.
Sure.
If you have a toxic family, then it's a lot harder because you don't have that support around you. But when you're dealing, because we're talking about mental health, when we're dealing with our mental health, it's a lot easier to deal with a mental illness while you have support around you.
Mm.
And if you're lucky enough for that to be your family, all the better. But maybe it's just friends. Hopefully it's somebody. But it does give you a reason to keep going. And that's such a big part of coping, is having one reason to keep going, whether that is a family member, a friend, a pet,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's relying on you to get up in the morning and feed them. It gives you that sense of a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a sense of purpose, then there's a reason to get up in the morning. There's a reason to seek help, and there's a reason to just keep on going. Um, and so without family, it does become harder. But like I said, there's pets, there's family, there's friends, there's maybe you really love your job. There's other things that you can utilize to get that same sort of um, purpose.
Okay. Well, so from the professional work that I do, like from the day job stuff, what we like to say in terms of service leadership is that, and it really is like that's what makes what it is maybe to be human is our connections to others. And even if you're a hermit, right? Even hermits sometimes need to connect. Like one of my good friends, he described himself like he self-describes himself as slightly introverted, and sometimes, especially with COVID, it was bad because he's kind of withdrawing even more. But he had like his wife, and he has like his community. In his case, it's volleyball of people who it's like his community. Like you have to find your people.
That's a good suggestion. Got to find your people. And I think with the internet now, it's a lot easier. So, like my kid, I said earlier, he's got autism, and he has a lot of anxiety. So he's kind of a hermit.
Hmm.
He doesn't leave the house that often. He's gotten better now. Again, medication therapy, huge help. But he's kind of a hermit. So for a teenager, yeah. And the internet has helped so much. He's got a group of friends now that he found. I've even talked to some of their moms online, just, make sure they're actually teenagers.
Right. Right.
And you got to be safe.
Yep.
But he's got a group of friends, and they play games together, like video games together. They'll just sit on a chat together, watch videos together, like the same things that you would do in person.
Yeah.
But they're able to do it online because they live all over the place. Most of his friends are American.
Okay.
And so he wouldn't have been able to find his people here. He never really did. He has a couple of friends here that he can see in real life, but really he didn't find his people until he was able to find them online.
Right.
So it's so nice that that's able to happen. Gotta say, as a mom, I was super worried at first. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's some people that I've had to be like, no, you're not talking to them. That is not a real child. But I mean, if you take the right safety precautions and things, it can be wonderful.
Okay. So one of the things that a previous guest who was also an author, she had written books, mostly of children's books, and yeah, she also is dealing with a child who has autism, and she just sort of described, how in a way you have to invent your treatment or the coping mechanism to deal with your child by yourself, and feeling alone and that kind of stuff. So do you feel that with your son, like, how early on did you recognize that he did have autism, and that did you start pulling in the resources to help you cope?
So, me and my husband, we realized it when he was really young. Not necessarily that it was autism, but that it was something.
Yeah.
It took the system a lot longer to give him that diagnosis, and we went through a lot of hoops and a lot of wrong diagnosis, which is fairly common.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we finally got it, it was like it was a relief because we knew something was up. We knew that there was something going on that he couldn't tell us that we needed to figure out in order to help him.
Right.
So for us, it was this big sigh of relief going, oh, that's why. Wonderful. Because now that we know, now we can get support. Because around here, you can't really get the support until you have the diagnosis. I don't
Right.
know how it is in other provinces
It's probably the
or
same.
or in America.
It's probably the same all
probably
over the world.
same. Probably. And so you can't start putting them on wait lists until for the right support until you have the actual diagnosis, which is frustrating because the wait lists alone are years long at times.
Yeah.
So you could be waiting a very long time for help that you already know they need, but you
have to go through the system.
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through.
Mm-hmm.
But once we were able to do that, the one thing that was a lot faster was that the school was able to then implement an IEP. And I mean, I could go on about the school. The school is
IUP.
Anyway.
What's an IUP?
IEP. So individual education plan.
Nice.
And I think in the States it's called a 504, or it's something similar to that. But it's basically how can we support this child in school based on their needs, and which is fantastic because they do have different needs. So they were able to put him in a smaller class size. They were able to give him, he can get a scribe to write his stuff down. He gets longer time for writing tests. So there's different things that they were able to put in place at the school level that once the diagnosis was there, that they couldn't do before having the diagnosis, which again is frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I know my kid needs this help. Just do it.
Right.
But I get it from a funding standpoint because it always comes down to funding.
Mm-hmm.
The government funds our education system, so there has to be certain things in place before you'll get the extra money, because when they are diagnosed with something, then they do get a little bit extra for the students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a big relief. We got him on, as soon as we did that, we got him on a bunch of wait lists. We filled out all sorts of paperwork for all the different programs, and then we didn't really sit around waiting for the wait list. We did what we could at home, did tons of research. But it really was a big old waiting game.
Right. Well, it's also, I mean, there's like, what's his name? The wilderness or survival guy. He's always drinking his own pee, whatever his name is. So
I think my father-in-law.
Bear Grylls, that's it. So Bear Grylls, he talks about, having to have a certain tenacity, that things aren't really given to us, that we have to kind of have that will to go out there and make things happen. Because to be an author is to actually sit down and to make a narrative happen, and to have the commitment to do that. So that practice and that tenacity is obviously inside you. Maybe the same thing that helps you, it might be a strange word to use to describe the writing process, but to push and to fight to complete a work is maybe part of the same fuel that you tap into to kind of push and fight to find the care that your son needs.
I actually think that's a great way to do it, because sometimes it really is fighting through to get your story written the way that you envision it to be. So I like that description.
Well done. You did a great job.
But thanks. But yeah, no, I think that that's very true, and I had never thought about that before, but it really did come down to tenacity with it. And at the beginning of the whole journey, it was not knowing what to do. So waiting for other professionals to tell me what to do, because I didn't know. And yes, I was doing research, but there's only so far research can take you. Living life, I think, gives a better understanding. So really reaching out to people who have been there, done that kind of thing was huge. And we talked about it before, finding your people. That's what I had to do. I had to find my people. I had to find other parents. And now most of my friends are parents of kids with something. Because they added, when you have to cancel on the last minute because your kid is having a meltdown, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Right. But you do that with somebody who doesn't get it, and they're just like, oh, you're so flaky.
Right.
Well, it has nothing to do with that. Or just, you have to be more strict with your kid. No, that's not it either.
That's not going to help. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's learning all of these things and finding your people to help you along the way, because doing it by yourself is so much more difficult than finding your people to help you along the way. And now when I'm dealing with professionals or the school, especially the school, because at the beginning of this, the school would say, oh, we're going to put him in this class. Okay, you think that's best. We're going to do this. Okay, you think that's best. And I'm relying on them. But what I've learned over the years, and this is going to sound absolutely horrible, is the school just didn't want to deal with him. He was a difficult child to deal with because he had violent meltdowns when the anxiety would get too high.
Okay.
And it's nothing that we could have prevented in the past because we didn't know the triggers. We didn't know, we were all learning this stuff. And so I just kept saying to the school, okay, because I thought that they had his best interest in mind.
Right.
But I don't think they did. Now, I don't think they were intentionally trying to push him off on other people, but they also weren't giving him a true opportunity to thrive in the class that he was put in, because they wouldn't give him a long enough chance to adjust to a new class before pushing him to another different class that they thought would be better. And something that is true with most people with autism is routine is huge. So constantly changing their school environment is not helpful. Yeah, that was very difficult to learn. And now when the school tries to tell me things, and I mean, he's in high school now, so it's a little bit easier. And the VP there is awesome. Most of the teachers are pretty awesome. I say, no, we're not doing that. No, you're not going to take him out of that class. No, you're going to send the work home. I don't care anymore. This is what's happening. I know how my kid learns best. I've given you all of his assessments and things over the years. I don't have to just agree with the school. And that was something I had to learn, because I didn't realize that there was other choices. We even homeschooled for a while. So there are choices out there that aren't easy, but once you start learning and find your people and build up that tenacity, build up that resilience to all these stressful situations and dealing with all these professionals, it can get easier.
Well, there we go. The photos, family, and you did it justice. Would you like to move on to the next photo?
Sure.
Right. The podcast just screams by, because it's, we're just talking about
I know.
Your backyard.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.